everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet this pretty coastal scarflet. This is a narrow scarf, so you could wear this as an accessory scarf just to kind of throw it around your neck, or for those chillier times during the warmer months where you may be in an air-conditioned space or it's breezy. So it's nice and narrow, so it makes it versatile. It is kind of like a combination of a granny stripe and a V-stitch, so it's fun to work on as well. And we use less than one yarn cake, and it does all the color work for you. So it's kind of like each section is like two colors twisted together, and it has this nice muted kind of coastal beachy feel to it. And then we've added this nice long fringe. So it's a very long scarf and it's narrow, so it has a really nice drape to it. And the total length of this scarf, the scarf itself, not including the fringe, is 90 inches long. And then when we added the fringe, each section of fringe here is 10 inches each for a total of 20 additional inches to the scarf. So the 90 plus 10 plus 10 is 110 inches total for the scarf. So I'm going to show you how to crochet the scarf itself and the stitch sequence that we're going to do. And then towards the end, we're going to add this beautiful fringe to the bottom. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle. We're going to be using a 5.5 millimeter eye crochet hook. As a side note, this is my Furls Streamline. In case you're wondering, I'll put the link down below because I usually get lots of questions about my hooks. And our yarn we're going to be using is a brand new yarn from Red Heart called Roll With It Tweed. And this is a yarn cake, and it's a generous sized yarn cake. And it has, if we look at the ply, it has strands that are multicolor kind of twisted through. This is actually called Beach House, is the colorway that I'll be using. Each one of these yarn cakes is 296 yards, 271 meters. If you need to substitute, just look for a similar yardage. And this is, let me just spin this around here. This is a 4 or medium on the yarn weight scale and recommends the 5.5 millimeter eye crochet hook. So if you need to substitute, just look for the 4 medium and the eye hook recommendation and you'll be just fine. And as a side note, this is machine washable, 100% acrylic. So really fun colorway, and I love these yarn cakes. They're so much fun to play around with. So let's get started. We're going to begin with our starting chain. So what we need to do is put a slip knot on our hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Our starting chain is 17 inches. Now this is, I'm calling this a scarflet because it's a little bit narrower. I don't know if that's the technical term, but I thought that it sounded cute and a little bit different than a traditional scarf. However, even though our starting chain is 17 chains, the multiple is 4 plus 1. So if you want to make this a traditional scarf, please feel free. If you want to make it very, very wide and seam it together, you can make it into a cowl. It's totally up to you. But the multiple is 4 plus 1 for this. So in other words, if you're not familiar with this concept, all that means is when you're making your starting chain, just make a chain of 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 and so forth until you get the width that you need, and then just add one more chain onto that and you'll be just fine in changing your width. So our starting chain, once again, is 17. So to make a chain, wrap yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So you can kind of get an idea of the width that we'll be using. I wanted something a little bit narrower for warm weather that you could really drape. Now I wear wraps and cowls and things all year round. The yarn weight of my stuff just changes, but I wanted something you could even wear with like a t-shirt. You could just kind of drape it around yourself and it'll be like a cute little kind of beachy look. So let's start with row 1. For row 1, we're going to work in the 6th chain from the hook. So this loop here on our hook right now does not count. And I'm just going to zoom in just a little so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So in the 6th chain, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So in that 6th chain from the hook, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, okay? So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around the hook, insert the hook into that chain, bring up a loop, you'll have 3 loops on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Then we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then in that same chain work another double crochet. Just like that, okay? You can see the color, the twisty colors are displaying very beautifully in this scarf. Next, we're going to skip 3 chains. 1, 2, 3, and in that next chain, we're going to do the same thing. Work your double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. So double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and work a double crochet. Now, as you can see, I pulled a little bit of yarn out to prepare me for this first row. Then we're going to just repeat this sequence. So skip the next 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and in that next chain, work the same thing. Double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Just like that. And then you'll have 3 chains left, so skip those 2 chains, and in that very last chain, work a double crochet in that very last chain to finish up the row. Okay, so row 1 is complete, and you'll have 3 V's, if you will, okay? Let's move on to row 2. So for row 2, we're going to chain 3 and turn. 1, 2, 3, turn our work. Then we're going to work into the chain 2 space from the previous row. So remember when we did our double crochet and then we did a chain 2 and a double crochet? That chain 2 created a space. That's what we call in the pattern the chain 2 space. So what we're going to do is work 4 double crochets in this chain 2 space. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just like that. Okay, then we're going to do that for each of these chain 2 spaces across. So work 4 double crochets once again. 1, 2, and I have to say as a side note, our color is starting to change. I always get really excited when that happens. It's going from a oceany blue to like kind of like a retro teal peach combination. Okay, hop on over to the next chain 2 space, and we're going to do the same thing. 4 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then to finish off row 2, we're going to work a double crochet into the turning chain space. So remember that turning chain we did in the last row? That created a space. See that little space at the end? It's almost like a backwards D shape. You're going to work a double crochet right into that turning chain space. Just like that. Okay, so row 2 should look a little bit like this. So for row 3, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and turn our work. Now you may notice that this was a chain 4 this time and not a chain 3. The reason for that is because one of these chains is going to count as part of the V for this row, and this will make more sense in just a moment, but just keep in mind that from row to row the turning chains may vary a little bit. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to work a double crochet. See that first space here that you come to? There's our group of 4 double crochets. And that first space that you come to, work a double crochet into that first little space there. Then you're going to hop over to the space in between the next grouping. See how we have a group of 4 and a group of 4, that space in between, you're going to work another V. So double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Just like that. Next, go hop over that next group of 4 double crochets, and you're going to work a V into that next space, double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. And then at the end of this row, we're going to work a double, this is a little bit different. So we're going to work a double crochet into this turning chain space. Now we have been doing just a double crochet, but for this row, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the turning chain space. Okay, so it should look like that. All right, let's move on to row 4. Now for row 4, we're going to chain 3 this time and turn. 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. Then we're going to work, remember the chain 1 space that we just did from the previous row? We're going to work 2 double crochets into that chain 1 space, 1 and 2. And then we're going to skip over to the center of this next V, and we're going to work 4 double crochets into the center of that V. So 1, 2, 3, whoops, my stitch split a little bit. Let's repeat that one. If you ever make a stitch that you don't love, it's perfectly fine to rip it out, back up, and try it again. Okay? Hop over to this next V, this chain 2 space from the previous row, and work 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm really excited because the yarn is changing again. Very fun. Okay, so we have our groups here. And then what we're going to do is hop over to the turning chain space and work 3 double crochets into that turning chain space. 1, 2, and 3. This pattern, this stitch sequence, gives you lots and lots of variety, so you won't get bored with this one with all the color changes and the fun stitches. Okay, for our final row of our stitch repeat, what we're going to do is chain 3 this time and turn. 1, 2, 3, turn your work. And then, see these 3 double crochets from the previous row? We're going to just skip them, and we're going to work a V in between the space there from this first group here and this next group. There's a space in between. Work a V. Remember, our V was a double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Just like that. Okay? Then what we're going to do is skip this grouping right here and work a V into that next space in between the 2 groupings. So double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Just like that. Now we are at 1 more grouping, but our grouping is a little bit smaller this time. So see, there's a group of 4, and then a group of 2, and then you have your turning chain. Work a V into that last space of the groupings. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. And then what we're going to do to finish up row 5 is work a double crochet in the turning chain space. So here's our turning chain, makes a little space. Work a double crochet right into that turning chain space, okay? So you can see we have a couple of color changes already. Looks very pretty and textured. I just love it. But it doesn't really take away from the stitches. This is a pretty simple stitch pattern. So I didn't want to make it too complicated because we do have some really beautiful colors that we're displaying. So to finish your scarflet or scarf or cowl or shawl or whatever you're making, whatever width you choose, what you're going to do is repeat rows 2 through 5, over and over and over for the rest of your scarf until it's as long as you would like it to be. Now I will say as a side note, if you're looking at, let me zoom out a little bit, if you're thinking about your yarn cake and how much yarn you'll have left over, Make sure you reserve enough for long fringe if you choose to do long fringe. It's totally up to you. I love it. I think it'll add to that beautiful drapey kind of beachy look. If you're concerned that you may not have enough or you kind of want to get an idea before you commit to making the entire scarf, what you can do is carefully slip your yarn label part of the way off, and you can pull it from the outside, and we already have an edge, so you could add your fringe to one side just to give yourself an idea of how much yarn you might be using, and then at the end save yourself about that much yarn that you use for this end and continue. So that is one idea if you are concerned about that. I'm going to keep going. Now our scarf is narrow, so we're not going to need a lot of strands, but I am going to make mine, you know, kind of long and drapey. So just keep that in mind as you work and as you're using up your yarn. So repeat rows 2 through 5 over and over and over, and then we will rejoin in just a bit, and I'm going to show you how to finish up your scarf and to add some beautiful fringe to it as well. Just working this very last stitch, because now we're ready to complete the scarf and start adding the fringe onto the other side. Now, I just wanted to show you, I went ahead and put some fringe on this side of my scarf, and it's nice and long, has a beautiful drape to it. It's like a really kind of long, slouchy feel to it. Even though it's a narrower scarf, we still have like this nice, pretty drape to it. And then what we're going to do is just grab your scissors, give your yarn a snip, and for the tail, you could do one of two things. You could just wrap the yarn around the hook and pull it through, and this could count as one of our pieces of fringe. But if you'd rather weave it in and add the fringe later, I'm going to show you how to weave it in really quick too, so it's up to you. Just thread your tapestry needle, and then you're going to go in to all those little stitches in one direction, just like that, down into the scarf a little bit, and then pull it through, and then come back in the other direction with your tapestry needle. You want to kind of stay in the same color family here. If you start, now I have a little bit of distance, but if you start going into some of these other colors later, your end will show more and it won't look as nice. So just pull that needle out. I went in both directions to kind of lock it into place. And now we can add our fringe. So what I like to do is do like a one side and then kind of mirror the other side. Now I haven't trimmed anything yet. So what we're going to do is put some nice long fringe on this on both sides, and then we're going to sort of go side by side and give it a little haircut along the bottom. Okay, so I have my yarn and I have a good bit left. I got the length that I wanted with my scarf, and I still had a good bit of yarn left. So I could have kept going a little bit longer with my scarf, but I really was enjoying the length of it and was ready to be done. So what we want to do is, I'm going to just give this a little trim. There's a little knot at the bottom of mine. And then we're going to do, let's see, let's kind of turn it so you can see it a little bit better. We're going to do our fringe nice and long. So what we want to do is take the end in one hand like this and stretch it from hand to hand with your arms wide open. So go all the way out and see we have some nice length, and then bring it in and then do another length that long, okay? So sort of like your outward stretched arms length, and then fold it in half and then do it again, okay? So then what we're going to do is take that yarn you just did, and you can see it's about the same length as our yarn on the other side. Now we are going to give it a haircut, so if it's not perfect, totally fine. And if you look over here, I did, now each of these we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bundles here. So what we're going to do is come over to this side, and we're going to start at one end. I'm just going to go into one of these end stitches here, hook our yarn with our hook, bring it through, and then we have a loop at the top, and then we're going to send those ends in just like that. Okay, so it sort of mirrors what we have over here. Okay, so then just do the same thing. Grab your yarn, take it in one hand, stretch it the length of your outstretched arms, fold it in half, outstretched arms, fold it in half, and if you want to make it a little fuller, you could do it one more time for 3 folds. It's totally up to you, whatever look that you like. Okay, give it a little snip. And then what we're going to do is fold it in half. Sorry, I was doing some of that off camera because it's with the outstretched arms, it's hard to capture that. And then we're going to just go in the other end. So we went down this side, we're going to come down this side. Now I did an extra fold just because I wanted to show you the difference. This is 2 folds, this was 3 folds, but I wanted to show you the difference of bulk. Now you don't want to mix and match on your own scarf, you want to kind of stick with the same number of folds. But let me get this hook out of the way. Just tighten it up a little bit, and you can see this one is a little bit fuller. So it's really dependent upon the look that you like, okay? This one I stuck with the same number of folds. It's more like this one here on the left, okay? But just to give you an idea. All right, so just repeat. The next one we're going to do is in the center, and then we're going to do one on either side of the center. So I do it that way just because if you look here, we did the 2 sides. There's our 2 sides. Then we're going to do a center one. And then we're going to do one in the middle of each of these that we did, okay? Just so it's centered and nicely spaced, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll rejoin and give our fringe a little trim. So all of our fringe has been added, and now I'm going to kind of hold the ends of our scarf side by side, and so we can keep it nice and even, okay? So I'm going to just kind of pile the scarf up at the top here and slide this way, way up. And you want to kind of determine how long you want your fringe to be. I want this to be nice and long and drapey. So what I'm going to do is come down as far as I can with these loops. Now my loops kind of end here. This one I cut a little bit longer. But what we're going to do is just carefully cut across. Now, I would recommend that you have a little bit bigger scissors than mine, but the only scissors that I can find at the moment are these little teeny tiny ones. So they'll just have to do for now. They still do the job, but bigger scissors would certainly be easier. All right, so I cut across. Now I'm just going to cut, just make sure everything's lined up. And just cut all the way across. And I really love how my fringe is different colors. Now, in your yarn cake, if you don't like that, if you want your fringe to be the same color on both sides, you could sort of pull it out until you get to the same color. But I kind of like how it's different colors. It's neat. It's interesting. So our scarf is complete. So let's kind of bring it back down here. We have some beautiful, just really subtle colors happening here. Let me just zoom out so you can see a little bit better. We have some shades of yellow and green. We have some blues and pinks, just really soft, kind of muted pastels. It does have definitely a coastal feeling. And that is how you crochet the coastal scarf. So our scarf is complete, and I just love these muted kind of pastel colors. It's just definitely has a coastal feeling. So that is how you crochet the Coastal Scarflette. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.